Ceterisparibus, from the Latin saying, all things being equal. Ceterisparibus is a means of distilling an argument down to as few variables as required and assuming that all things remain equal. Exactly what equal is will vexate us to the end of our days as economists. Right, so let us begin by examining the standard model of macroeconomics. We recall in macroeconomics that we aggregate data into a model that gives us an overview of the economy. In the simple two-sector model, households interact with businesses. They buy and sell in the factor markets and in the finished good markets. Government is added as a third sector and reacts with both households and businesses. Then in a four-sector model, foreigners are added. And these are all bound with financial institutions. As transactions flow between these groups, relationships get really complex. And unless you're the ghost of Einstein or belong to a small group of the world's top mathematicians, you're going to find it difficult to think beyond 3 dimensions. The macroeconomic world is a noisy place, and it's impossible for our limited brains to hold on to more than 2 or 3 things at one time. Trying to hold it all together is a truly challenging task. We introduce ceterisparibus, or as Einstein said, things should be made as simple as possible but no simpler. We can reduce our model to a 2-dimensional view, and this allows us to have a rational discussion about a given relationship by assuming all other things are equal. Oh, were it as easy as this. Now, economics is not a laboratory science. We are more like firefighters, sometimes able to manage outcomes, but mostly observers in a multivariate space that will on. When the wind blows, we can only watch as nature marvels. Our observations are not pre-programmed, but are simply read or worse, aggregated from observed data. We try as best possible to distill the models into 2 or 3 variables and then fit either a 3D model like a plane or a 2D model like a line into the data. It's at best a fit and an approximation, and it assumes that all other variables to be equal. Ceterisparibus. As an example, let's view this video by Eugene Korturansky. Suppose we have a variable z whose outcome depends on the values of x and y. And we want to examine the direct effect on z of changing y while x remains constant, or ceterisparibus. Then we're going to convert this complex 3D model into a 2D one so that even economists can understand it. So we have z as a function of x and y. Now suppose we pick one value for x and we keep x at this value as we change the value for y. Each time we change y by a small amount, z also changes by a small amount. This rate of change we call the partial derivative, and at each point the change in z divided by the change in y is given as the slope of this partial derivative. With green symbolizing a positive derivative and red being a negative derivative. So if we now want to find the maximum or policy point at which we should act on y, we remove away the effect of x and we convert it to a 2-dimensional diagram. Ceterisparibus is an attempt to dumb down a complex problem to something manageable that economists and business people can listen to and understand us while still summing their thumb phones. The most famous example of this is the central theme of any first course in macroeconomics, the ISLM model. We take the basics of a complex model of the economy and bring it down to income and interest rates. This simplification allows us to build an imaginary model of the economy and convince ourselves that we can actually do something about outside events. Now there's some real downsides to this approach. One of them I call the flatlander's pencil problem. Imagine that you live in an economy of flatland. You then build a 2D model of the world, and what you see is dots on a piece of paper. The good news is that this world is easy to model and to take policy actions. And this is the world of Keynes and academic economists. Suddenly an unforeseen catastrophic event occurs. We see a comet, a sudden drop in the stock market or fall in our currency. What are we to make of it? What other explanation is there than an act of God? But what if flatland was simply a construction of our own limited business minds? What if Einstein was right and we live in space-time? Then the world actually looks like this, and we can be happy that the pencil didn't land on us. This is the world of the libertarians, neoclassical economics, and business people, who feel that we have little or no control over outside events. But we still need models, and so we introduce ceterisparibus and build an imperfect one. As Mark Zuckerberg said, done is better than perfect. In a complex world, ceterisparibus allows us to examine issues and make questionable decisions.